Hey y'all, welcome back to Bookishrealm. I am Ashley, and if you're here, welcome. Well, if you're here for the first time, welcome. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Okay, so today we're here to talk about something a little interesting. Why we all love to hate the Goodreads Choice Awards. So by the time that this video is going up, we should be getting closer to the Goodreads Choice Awards. I think by the time that this video goes up, we probably would be somewhere like maybe around a week, probably less than a week of time before the first round of voting opens up. And so I thought, as a precursor to what's going to inevitably be everyone reading the nominees, everyone discussing the nominees, everyone having live reactions to the nominees, why we all love to hate the Goodreads Choice Awards. I have three things that I think as a community, now keep in mind I can't speak for everybody in the community, but just patterns that I've noticed for years. I will get into whether I'm a fan of the Goodreads Choice Awards or not, but I wanted to dive into some reasons that we love to hate the Goodreads Choice Award. Okay, so number one, everyone knows, this has been proven time and time again, we know this, we understand this, the Goodreads Choice Awards are definitely a popularity contest. It has nothing to do with whether a work is critically acclaimed, whether it's gotten like raving reviews, meaning that raving reviews in the sense that I'm talking about from like Kirkus or Publishers Weekly or Library Journal. It has nothing to do with that. This is all based off of general enjoyment. And the name itself, Goodreads Choice Awards, is very indicative of the fact that this has to do with viewers' choice. This is, or shall I say in this sense, readers' choice. This is not about necessarily picking a book apart piece by piece and understanding why it is such a masterpiece. I mean, yes, that could be part of the reason, but we know the primary reason. And it's not to say that some of these books that end up on this list aren't masterpieces, but for the most part, we all understand that the Goodreads Choice Awards is a popularity contest. Now, I think for me personally, there are a couple things that make the Goodreads Choice Awards so frustrating every single year. And of course, that is, it doesn't always allow for the broadest range of diversity in terms of the voices that are telling the story, allowing for different authors from different backgrounds to shine. Not to say that there's no diversity, but with the things that are happening in publishing, what we're seeing with social media, the most popular things are not often, and I'm not going to say they're never, but they're not often the most diverse title. So I always have such a huge issue with that as well. But I also think collectively, like when we read so much as a group, and I'm not even talking about just individually, but when we read so much as a group, you know, we want to see the stories that we love, that we fell in love with, that we feel like don't get enough shine, don't get enough praise, or not valued enough. We want to see those books up there. And granted, yes, there's an opportunity for write-in, but let's be honest. If this book didn't get a particularly hard amount, or should I say large amount, not hard amount, large amount of marketing behind it, it didn't follow whatever is popular in this moment in time, what people are gravitating towards, more than likely, like it's not gonna mean much in the end. But I think a part of us, like, we want to see those books that we love, that we're passionate about, that we rave about, whether that's through video content, you know, doing stuff on Instagram, doing things on TikTok, Twitter, whatever. We want those books that we love to make it on that list. And so, I mean, I must admit, it's gotta be a little heartbreaking when you find books that are just amazing, they're beautifully done, the writing, the character development, the plot development is just icing on a cake, but this book didn't get as much shine as maybe, you know, the typical Sarah J. Maas or the typical Cassandra Clare or Stephen King. Like, you're just so used to seeing those voices that you feel like no one else gets the opportunity to shine. And so I think it's a little bit of frustration, even knowing prior to the selection process, you already know what's up. I've seen people say, like, if Sarah J. Maas or Cassandra Clare, and in this year probably Rebecca Yarros, in any category, it's just kind of like, forget it, because they're going to win the category, which is super unfortunate. It's super, super unfortunate because it just, Yikes. Now, the next thing I've seen, I think that we collectively seem to have an issue with is like the range of dates is very strange. I believe that you can have, I think voting opens up like in between the 14th to the 16th of this month, but then like a book could have been published up until the middle of November. It's just a very strange situation when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. You're like, okay, well, this book literally just made the cut. It's strange to think that someone could have produced 2 books in this range and these 2 books can end up in a category together. So like, for example, a lot of people are talking about the fact that Rebecca Yarros probably is going to have books in categories with both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame because they both came out in enough time period in which they could, you know, be qualified. So there is no limitation on, you know, 1 book per author. Like you have 1 book that's up for grabs. It's, I don't know. I always wonder why they don't do it by like calendar year, which would mean that the Goodreads Choice Awards would have to be earlier maybe. It just, I don't know. It's like they don't, it's weird the way they do it. Although, I mean, I feel like everybody pretty much works on it, because it's not to say that they don't work on a year like base schedule, but it's just kind of one of those things where it just feels like to be able to submit a work up into that date like so close feels, I think, strange for a lot of people. And if I'm wrong by that assumption, please let me know in the comments below, but I'm pretty sure you could submit it so close to the date that it's just kind of like, okay, so are we gonna limit 1 title like per author and there's just no limitations? It just seems like, you know, because it is a viewer's choice type of situation, I think they're pretty lax on how the rules and eligibility kind of works. And of course, the ultimate thing that we love to hate about the Goodreads Choice Awards, y'all, is that there is a lack of trust. We have trust issues when it comes to Goodreads Choice Awards. We have trust issues with the ability of titles to be chosen in a way that reflects all members of the community, and then we lack trust in our peers and colleagues in being able to vote, truly vote for the best book in that category. A lot of times I see, you know, conversations that happen via social media where people are like, you know what, you don't even have to have read the book to vote. If you just want to vote just to vote, you can, because it is ultimately a popularity contest. And I mean, that's its purpose. Its purpose is to be a popularity contest. I think it makes for very interesting content, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit, and why like there are some benefits to this, what we consider a crap show of an award system. There are some benefits to it, which I'll dive into. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of parameters that they can really set up, considering the fact that it is such a community-based award system. This is not like, you know, getting the Pulitzer or getting the Newbery or getting the Coretta Scott King or getting the Nebula. Like, this is not one of those situations where you have a dedicated committee that is determining what is the best book in the category. When you start putting things into the hands of hundreds of thousands of people with no regulations, no type of really parameters when it comes to submitting votes, except that you technically can only vote once per account, but you can create as many accounts as you want to at that point. You can't make people read the book. And so I think that is kind of like frustrating, knowing, once again, I think going back to that, okay, you have this strong personal attachment to a book. You've had a wonderful experience with it. You have this connection with it. And then it gets beat out by the same people we see on these lists every single year. I know that that's frustrating for us. And I think that's why collectively we're just kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. I don't take it seriously. Like, I just don't care. But switching over a little bit, I think what is interesting about this, the Goodreads Choice Awards provides some top tier content. Okay, it really does. From the prediction videos that I see people do to, and I've been a part of a group that's read the Goodreads Choice Award winners, and that was a very interesting and fun experience, and also like dreadful experience because I was pissed by every selection that was ultimately made. But you know, at the end of the day, what is fascinating is that it does create almost a sense of community. It is so weird that something that we collectively, for the most part, and I know that some people do like it and they find it entertaining, but I think even for those of us who don't like them, as a whole, all of us partake in this community event low-key. If you think about it, people are going to be buzzing about the Goodreads Choice Awards. It's already started. I've seen so many prediction videos come out. There's going to be videos coming out of people reading all of the nominees and making their own decisions. I'm sure there's going to be people who are going to do some really awesome and creative content behind it. So it does give us a sense of community. And part of me, regardless of all the flaws that I see in how they've designed the Goodreads Choice Awards, you have to admit that if their intent was to build community, they're not doing a bad job. I mean, we may not agree, and we may get frustrated with each other, and our trust issues may be elevated to a completely different level. But at the end of the day, I do think that it does provide us all with room to fellowship with each other. Whether we are agreeing or disagreeing, we are all coming to the table to partake in the foolery every single year. And I can't help but to smile at that, because it's, as long as I've been in this community, it's been like, I hate the Goodreads Choice Awards. We hate it. It's awful. They never have any type of variety. It's always the same people winning the books, but we're back every single year talking about it, indulging in the content, chatting with each other, watching each other's content. Like, it does. It's meant to build community, and it does. As flawed as it may be, you have to admit it builds community. Okay, and one of the other things that I really have been thinking about in terms of the Goodreads Choice Awards from a more professional lens is that I think that a lot of what has been happening on social media, especially on Book Talk, I think Book Talk and Bookstagram, but Book Talk definitely is number one, has been really driving the market in relationship to books. I don't know where I was going with this sentence, but in relationship to books, like, it's really been driving the market. And it's also informed what happens at libraries, ironically, and it has really changed the way that people interact with their libraries. And so when something inevitably goes viral on Book Talk, we see sometimes that stuff reflected back and how community members are interacting with the collection. And so while I may, partake in the Goodreads Choice Awards for content purposes, fellowshipping purposes, just having a good laugh, basically doing the same cyclical shit where I'm complaining about it, it does help inform some aspects of my professional environment, meaning that it gives me a good idea in terms of market, what people are very interested in. And so it can help me gauge, like, okay, if people are into, I'm going to use a young adult book, for example, and people are into Divine Rivals, right? I read it. I really enjoyed it. I know that that is a thing that is really driving the market right now. Romance fantasy or fantasy romance is really like taking off right now. I know that probably in the back of my mind, regardless of age, I'm gonna need to be able to focus in on other titles that also provide romance or fantasy romance. I want to say romance fantasy, fantasy romance, or romantasy, whatever the phrase is now. It does help me start to pay attention to what maybe I need to focus in on and what I need to be reading a little bit more of, not necessarily just for me, because sometimes I think people don't realize, like, there is a side of me that is reading, yes, for my enjoyment, but also for professional reasons, to help me stay informed of what is going on in the market, being able to provide patrons with read-alikes. Like, that is a thing that does happen that I think is a vital aspect of my job. So while I do not typically pick up what is hyped on Book Talk, and I think that what has been hyped on Book Talk this year is going to play a role in what we see for the Goodreads Choice Awards, it is a tool for me. Believe it or not, as much as I run to more established professional things like reviews and specifically journals that have reviews, like Kirkus, like School Library Journal, Hornbook, Publishers Weekly, though I look at those, I also have to pay attention to what is happening outside of those. So there is a very librarian professional lens that's driving what's happening in the market. And I would say, like, me sitting at the table with people who are very invested in what's going to win the Newbery, what's going to win the Caldecott, what's going to win the Coretta Scott King, what's going to win the Prix Belpre, like all of that, right? Like I have interactions on that side, but I also have to look at, okay, what's happening over here on social media that is getting people like really hyped and really excited and really invested in, you know, what is coming out from authors, what's coming from publishers. So the Goodreads Choice Awards, believe it or not, does help me stay on top of things, just for knowledge purposes though. While we do love to hate on it, and while I will continue to hate on the Goodreads Choice Awards probably as long as I live, there are some things that I think we gain out of it as a community that we don't necessarily realize all the time, but it still is a flawed system. As long as you go in and you understand and you realize that the Goodreads Choice Awards is a popularity contest, I think you can keep everything in line with, you know, not feeling too horrible when the book that literally touched the inside of your soul is not up there, or it is up there and it doesn't win because it's going against these heavy hitters that are extremely popular. I think it helps you keep things in line. All right, y'all, well, that's just a little precursor to what we're going to be seeing happening in the coming weeks with the Goodreads Choice Awards. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about the Goodreads Choice Awards. Are you excited about them this year? What are you expecting to happen? And like I said, I know I've seen some people do some prediction videos. I would do a children and middle grade prediction video, but it's so difficult because I always feel like their predictions are out of left field and don't often make sense to me, to be honest with you. Not their predictions, their choices don't make sense to me, because when I think about popularity in children's lit, it's a little different than young adult and adult. So, child, I don't know. I have no idea, but y'all let me know what your predictions would be in the comments down below. If you would like to see another video from me, make sure you click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. It helps increase engagement, even if you can't leave a comment. Every little thing helps. I promise it does help. If you're interested in supporting the channel, follow me on social media. All the links will be down in the description box below, and I'll be back with another video soon.
I'm on my own, broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all